All right. So this evening, just a brief overview of what we're going to chat about. We will talk about kind of the profession of rec therapy and what this credential actually is. Then we'll look at the structure of the certificate. So, like it sounds like most of you have done some of your research and have a pretty good understanding. But we'll kind of talk through the tracks, the options, and how you can really individualize this your track and your path based on what you need and the experience if you have any, or and we'll talk through all of that. Eligibility, we'll look at that, and then we'll talk about the program schedule, starting if you were to start in the fall semester, which starts in August. And again, we'll have time for questions, but again, feel free to ask throughout. So again, probably you know if you're here and you've done the research what a CTRS is, but just to make sure we're all on the same page. So a certified therapeutic recreation specialist is a nationally certified professional. So it's kind of the primary designation in the field of recreational therapy. And the CTRS credential is issued by the National Council for Therapeutic Recreation Certification, it's a mouthful, NCTRC. And again, they're kind of the premier credentialing agency for our field. So the CTRS credential is recognized in all 50 states. It's also recognized in Canada and several other countries, including Japan, Australia, New Zealand. There's a couple. So it is kind of a worldwide credential, but it's most common in the States and Canada. So a CTRS can work in a lot of different settings. You can work in like a rehab setting, long-term care. There's also rec therapists that work in schools for parks and rec programs, any kind of specialized disability type program or working with that population, adaptive sports, things like that. So there's a lot of options to go more of the clinical route or to go kind of more of the community route. So you'll find, again, CTRS is working in a lot of settings. Now, you won't find them everywhere, right? You won't find them in every rehab hospital, but they're in some places, right? Same with long-term care facilities. They might not be called a CTRS, but maybe there's an activities director, but it's anyone who's using recreation or activities for therapeutic outcome, right? It's recreation, it's play for a purpose, okay? So in terms of becoming a CTRS, getting this credential, again, it's issued by NCTRC, so you have to go through this organization and meet their requirements in order to get certified. So they have kind of 3 buckets of requirements that folks who want to get certified have to meet to become eligible. So the first thing is the minimum educational requirement is a bachelor's degree. Okay, so regardless of what your degree is in, you have to hold a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution. So that's kind of the first requirement. The second requirement is you have to have completed some specific coursework. So the main piece is the RT specific coursework. It's a minimum of 6 courses, 3-credit college courses that have like rec therapy, or sometimes it's called therapeutic recreation in the title. So it's kind of that practice specific coursework that you take at the college level. NCTRC also requires a couple different supportive courses. These are courses like, and I have a full list that I'll pull up, but they do require the main 3 are anatomy and physiology, human growth and development, and abnormal psychology. So those are kind of the extra supportive courses. Now, anyone who went through kind of a social service, helping profession, healthcare profession, you might have already completed those. But those are required in addition to the RT specific coursework. And again, I'll talk through how FIU can support you if you need those extra supportive courses. And then the last thing you need, all applicants need to become a CTRS, is you have to have some type of professional experience. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can acquire this professional experience. The most common, and what we do here at FIU, is an academic internship. So it's a very structured 560-hour internship that is under the supervision of a CTRS. You go through and meet all of the NCTRC job analysis task domains. Once you go through successful completion of that internship, you've met their professional experience. Now, There is another path, and it sounds like a couple people in here might meet this. You can, if you're working in a paid job that is related to the field, and there's specific criteria that your paid position has to meet. You can acquire that professional work experience in that paid job. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about the specifics of that, but just know that it takes longer. It's either you have to have 1,500 hours if your supervisor is a CTRS. If your supervisor is not a CTRS, you have to have 5,000 hours of paid work experience. So again, doing the academic internship, it is the most common, it's the quickest to get that professional work experience. Okay, so those, again, this is NCTRC, there are 3 buckets that you have to meet. Now, in terms of FIU, right? What do we offer and how do we make sure you meet these 3 requirements? Well, first off, our certificate program, right, if you're doing just a certificate, you already have to have your bachelor's degree. It sounds like everybody in here already has that. So you know that box is checked. Now, if you are interested in becoming a rec therapist and you did not already have a bachelor's degree, you would be eligible just to enter in the FIU bachelor's degree in rehab and rec therapy. So that's, we have around 700 students in our undergraduate degree. It's offered both online and in person, and you would choose the rec therapy track. But this specific certificate, this is for folks who already have their degree. So with the coursework, in terms of the certificate, what we offer is completion of those 6 rec therapy classes. The supportive courses are not a part of the certificate. And again, I'll pull up more information about that shortly here. But what you would do is complete the 6 RT courses that are required. Okay. And then in terms of the professional experience, we do offer, you can complete the academic internship through us, the 560-hour placement at an approved site with an approved supervisor. You can accomplish that through FIU as well. Okay. So those are kind of what we can offer. And again, our different tracks within the certificate, you can do one or you can do both, right? Depending on your situation. So let's talk through the different scenarios here. So for folks, if your situation, again, you already have your degree, say you have your professional work experience. Okay, now with the professional work experience, FIU cannot approve it. Only NCTRC can approve your paid work experience. So if you think you work in a job, and again, this job has to be related to the field of RT, right? So maybe you're working as an activities coordinator in a nursing home. Maybe you're working for an inclusion program in a Parks and Rec, after school program or something like that. If you're doing some sort of job that's utilizing activities or recreation as a form of therapy, that might meet the criteria, but you would have to get verified through NCTRC. So again, a couple of folks in here, if you have related work experience, if you don't know, if you're unsure, I can send you the links, like the paperwork you have to fill out. But again, we can't approve it. I wish we could, it'd be really helpful, but you have to go through NCTRC. Okay. But say you have that, if you have the professional work experience, that means you're missing the classes, right? So you would need to complete those 6 RT specific courses. That means you would complete the coursework track. Okay. It's an 18 credit track, fully online. So that's kind of scenario number 1. Now, if another scenario, right, say you have the degree and you have completed the classes. Now, I don't think we have anyone in this group that fits this criteria, but I'm just going to mention it in case I send this to somebody who does. We have within the bachelor's degree, we have rehabilitation and recreational therapy is the degree. We have what's called a rehab track, and that basically students in that track, they take the rec therapy classes, but they don't do internship because they're planning to go on to graduate school. Well, what we see is sometimes students come back and they actually want to become certified. Maybe they change their mind about grad school, and they're just missing their internship. So they come back to complete their internship with us. So in that situation, again, it's mainly folks in this situation are going to be rehab track grads from FIU. That's basically who this group is. So again, I don't think anyone in here would just take the clinical experience track, okay? Now there's another scenario, and I know we have folks in here, you might be looking at a career change, right? You might not have the work experience, you might not have the class, you might just be brand new to the field of rec therapy, which is great, and we love it. We love when folks find rec therapy later in their professional experience. So in this situation, if you need both the classes and you need professional experience, you need that work experience, then you could complete both. You can complete the 6 RT classes and you can complete the 560-hour internship. This is basically a combination track. You receive 1 certificate, but you will complete 30 credits total. You'll start with your 6 classes, and then once you complete the 6 classes, you'll be eligible to do your internship. And again, I'll talk through the specifics of what internship looks like and all of that shortly. But again, those are basically your 3 options, okay? So to look at it, a little more information for each of these options, and then I'll open it up if someone has questions. So the coursework track. So this again is for folks who have the bachelor's degree in really anything. And you have, in this situation, if you just need the coursework, you're going to already have that paid work experience that aligns with NCTRC requirements. So again, if you go to nctrc.org, you can read more about this. But again, just the baseline requirements are, if your supervisor, if you're doing a job, your supervisor is a CTRS, you complete 1,500 hours of work under them. It's about a year-ish of work, full-time work, that can qualify. Or if you're doing something very similar to RT, but there's no CTRS on staff, but you're kind of doing the job, right? Which there are a lot of folks out there who are working very related jobs. You need 5,000 hours of work experience. So we're talking 2 to 3 years. Okay, and that will give you the professional work experience. If you've met that, that means you're just missing the RT specific coursework, and you would take those 18 credits, those 6 RT classes, okay? So that's the coursework track. Again, the clinical experience track, this is really for graduates from FIU's rehab program. They've taken the RT classes and they're really just missing the clinical work experience, right? So, and they need to do their internship. So they would go through and complete, we have them do both a field work placement, a shorter placement, and then the final internship. Also 18 credits. And again, this is going to be primarily folks who have graduated from the rehab track at FIU. And then lastly, our combination folks. This is for folks who need both those courses and that experience. So this means you're not going to have had any previous exposure, experience, classwork. And so what you would do is first complete those 6 classes, then you would do your 560-hour internship. And again, this option is quicker than getting a second bachelor's. So historically, before we started the RT certificate, every year we would have several students who already had a bachelor's, but they wanted to become a rec therapist. And the only option for them was to get a second bachelor's degree. And so that means that was a minimum 57 credits that you had to complete at minimum to get that second bachelor's degree. And again, this is just a quicker, right? We're giving you exactly what you need to meet the requirements, but you're not getting a second bachelor's degree, you're getting a certificate, but it gets you to the same place. Okay, it's just cheaper and quicker. So now that I've gone over those different tracks, does anyone have any questions, or can I provide any clarification of like who would fit in what track? Or is anyone kind of still wondering what track that they would be in?
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a question. So from my understanding, it looks like I would have to take the combination track. Um, but what I wanted to ask is you showed 3 classes, the anatomy, physiology, um, and human growth. I think it was human growth and development, and then abnormal.
Abnormal psych. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I believe I've taken abnormal psychology and human growth and development even while I was in this program that I'm in now, the master's program. So, but I'm not really sure about, I haven't seen like the other 3. Is it additional 3 classes after that, right, too?
Yeah, I'll pull up the list
Okay.
in just a couple of slides. But yeah, it's those those are the main three. Like you have to have a certain number of like social services credits, but literally anyone who has a bachelor's degree will like have met that. But you just need those three: the anatomy, physiology, human growth and development, and abnormal psych. And so with those courses, like you can take them at FIU, or some people, again, some people already have taken them. Some people choose to take them at just like a community college. Like it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be taken before or during. They just have to be taken before you sit for the NCTRC, the exam. So it's just a requirement to get certified, but it's not a requirement to have them completely done prior to starting the certificate program. You can do it at the same time.
Okay, so in my case, since I really don't have those classes, I would basically take the combination track, right?
Probably, yeah. Unless, I mean, in your situation, like say you got a job, so you graduated from with the rehab counseling, say somehow your job, like if you got a job that was related to the field, maybe you could get paid professional work experience, right, through a job. But the quickest way for you to get certified would be to do the combo, to do the internship at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And then yeah, so the with financial aid, so professional certificate programs are not eligible for FAFSA, so you cannot get federal aid. However, you can get like other forms of aid, and if you, and I can pull it up at the end, FIU has a whole site of like alternate loan options for funding and stuff, but no, you if you fill out a FAFSA, it will not be approved for this. And then tuition, I'll pull that up at some point as well, but the tuition, there is in-state versus out-of-state uh tuition, and it's the exact same cost as like the undergraduate tuition. Like there's no differential cost for certificate versus bachelor's student. It's the exact same cost per credit. Okay. All right, any other questions about tracks?
Question, because they're asking about the flyer. The flyer is for the 18 credits, right? And then if they do the combo track, then they need to add 12 credits.
Correct. So the tuition on the flyer, and I'll pull up our you can calculate exactly what it is. So here's the per credit fee. So if you're just doing coursework, it's 18 credits, and it's going to be the in-state, here it is, 4,240. This is for 18 credits. Now, if you're combo, you're going to add another 12 credits.
12 credits.
Yep. Okay. And then out of state 648.87. And again, the costs, it's the exact equivalent of undergrad tuition. Yep. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right, let's keep going. So in terms of like what are the classes, like what does each track include? The coursework track, again, you're completing the 6 RT specific courses. And so these are the 6 courses that you would take. We start, and I'll do a breakdown of like what each semester would be, but basically coursework folks, you take 2 courses per semester. So you're going to be enrolled in 6 credits a semester. In terms of tuition, because I know I get asked this a lot, you pay by the semester, so you don't pay like for the whole program up front. You pay at the start of each semester for those 6 credits. And FIU does have payment plans available where you can choose 3 or 4 payments that you make throughout the full semester to break that up. In terms of materials, oh, okay, Tanya answered that.
Yeah, but just your classes, because I know for my classes, 2 classes don't require textbooks, so I provide you with everything. 1 does require, and yours is it?
I have 1 class that requires
okay, so only 2 classes out of the 6 require textbooks. We for the other classes, we give you everything on Canvas.
Yeah. And other than that, I don't like, there's no other fees or costs or lab fees or anything like that. It would just be the textbooks if they're required. And again, Tanya and I teach almost all of the classes for the certificate program, and we really try to provide like accessible resources that you don't have to purchase, you know, a super expensive textbook, but for some of the classes, like it's just necessary. Like you need it to follow, like in program planning, you need the program plan templates, for example. Okay, great questions though, thank you. So yeah, the 6 courses, so you would start with a conditions and diagnoses class and an intro class, that's your first semester. Then you would take a program planning, an assessment and documentation course, and then your 3rd semester you would do evaluation, evidence-based practice, and a modalities and techniques class. And again, these are all very specific to the field of rec therapy, right? So that's the coursework. For the clinical experience, again, this is for folks who graduated from FIU's rehab track. They would complete what our T-track students complete, which is a fieldwork placement, which is a 320-hour experience, and then the final internship, which is a 560-hour experience under the supervision of a CTRS. Again, no one in here would be just a clinical experience student, but we do have a lot of folks who would be combo students. So combo students, you would start with the exact same 6 courses in the coursework track. And then once you complete your courses, you would be eligible to complete internship. Now, you do not have to complete internship like right away. So maybe you want to take the courses and maybe you want to see if you can find a paid job, right? That could meet it. You know, so it doesn't have to happen, or if you're not sure if you want to do internship, you don't have to know right away. You can wait to go through the program before doing internship. You can get the coursework out of the way and then make that decision. So absolutely. So Whitney kind of asked that question, right? Yeah, you don't have to do it. It's just an option if you want to gain that professional experience through the academic internship. Again, quick, easy, 1 semester to do that. But again, you might have a job that meets the paid professional work experience and that will qualify. And if, you know, and maybe that's your goal during the program, maybe you try to find a job, right? There are so many jobs out there right now. And they might not be called a rec therapist, right? And that's what can kind of be deceiving, but it's, you know, I would say the most classic jobs of folks who we have currently in the program who are working, for example, someone who works in inclusive recreation for the city of Miami, right? They're running basically inclusive rec programs for you know, community parks and rec. That qualified, right? Somebody who is working in a long-term care facility as the activities director, activities coordinator, that, you know, and there's tons of jobs like that out there. So it's up to you. It's really up to you if you choose to do internship or not. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, and just remember that for the paid, like if you choose, like if you have a job that meets the requirements, you have to get it approved through NCTRC. So, and if you already have the hours, you have the work experience, I highly recommend that you reach out to NCTRC to verify that. They're very responsive, NCTRC at nctrc.org, and kind of get that verified. But there's forms you have to sign, you have to get HR to sign, your supervisor to sign, but only they can approve that. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now I want to talk about, so I talked about what is included in the certificate, but now let's look at what does the certificate not include, okay? And this is, here are those courses I mentioned. So NCTRC has, they call supportive courses. And it's basically the 3 most important that I mentioned are anatomy, physiology, abnormal psych, human growth and development. Then they say 9 credits of courses related to the social sciences and humanities. And again, if you already have a bachelor's degree, like you've taken psychology, sociology, philosophy, like humanities, like any of those kind of courses will meet that requirement. But it's these 3 that a lot of folks will need to take. So if you need to take them, again, you could take them at FIU. Again, they're not a part of the certificate program. So that would be additional tuition, right, on top of that. The challenge sometimes with taking the supportive courses through FIU is the courses fill up really quick oftentimes. And so you might not get in, you might not be able to get in because you'd be able to register for these courses right before the semester starts, because you're not like a declared major within their program. And so a lot of those courses fill up. If you can get it, then you can take it. However, a lot of folks take them at community colleges. So basically these are these types of courses are offered almost any community four-year college. So that is an option, but that's going to be on top of, again, the extra tuition if you have to take that. The other thing that's not included is the NCTRC exam fee. So, and I don't think I made this clear earlier on. Once you complete, the requirements, so once you complete the courses, you have your professional experience. What that does is it makes you eligible to become a CTRS. You don't graduate from the program or the certificate program. That doesn't make you a CTRS. You have to sit for an exam through NCTRC to get that certification. So when you complete the certificate program, you're eligible to sit for the NCTRC exam to become a CTRS. And you have to sign up through them, right? Go to a testing area. They do remote testing as well. Take the exam, and there is, of course, a cost for that. So the application fee and exam fee total is $450. So that is not included in the tuition either. So I guess I misspoke when there was no other hidden fees, but this is through NCTRC, okay? The other thing we can't guarantee, we help you with, but we can't guarantee is your like first choice of a fieldwork or internship placement in your, preferred location or setting. Now we have a whole process, and I'll talk a little bit about the fieldwork of or the internship of, how do you go about finding an internship placement? We help you with that. There's a whole process, right? We have a whole list. It has to be approved, right? You have to be under the supervision of a CTRS. But unlike some programs that place students, like some people, you don't get a choice, right? You're matched or something. We don't do that. The field, like no school in rec therapy does that. You have to get accepted. Basically, like you apply for an internship, and you identify the types of places you want to go, and you apply and you get accepted. But we can't guarantee you a rotation in like your preferred location. Now, if you're in South Florida, there's tons of options. We'll find you something. I'm very confident about that. Why this is key is we do get some folks who might live in very rural areas that don't have a lot of opportunity. If there's no CTRS there, like we can't, we can't place you. So it has to be an approved facility. We have to create an affiliation with them. There has to be a CTRS. But if all of those, we work with you on that, it's just like we can't ever guarantee. And then I already mentioned this, but FIU is not able to verify the paid professional work experience. Now we make sure that, if you do the academic internship, of course, we're going to verify that that meets the requirements. But if you're trying to do, either the 1,500 hours or 5,000 hours, only NCTRC can approve that. Now we can tell you, like, we think it'll be, this looks like it should be, but they have the final say. And I do get questions a lot, like we'll have some folks that might work in like, maybe they're a physical therapist assistant. Something like that is not going to get approved by NCTRC because it's not rec therapy specific. Even though it's a therapy, really the experience has to be recreation activity, right? The use of those modalities for outcomes, goal-based outcomes for your population. So if you're just working in like an OT clinic or a PT clinic, it's not going to be approved. It's got to be rec or activity specific. Okay. Questions about any of this?
I probably missed it. Sorry, I was writing at the same time. I'm not sure if you mentioned if internship can be paid or not paid.
Great question. So typically internships are unpaid. However, there is no rule that says they can't be paid. So for example, right now, one of our certificate students, she's doing a paid internship. She's doing it at Port Behavioral Clinic, or a place where basically she was hired as, I think it was like a rec therapy assistant, but the supervisor is a CTRS. So we were able to make sure it met internship requirements and she's got a paid job. So that it's definitely possible. It's just not necessary. Like a lot of them aren't, most of them aren't. We're trying to get more in the like supporting people and doing paid and like letting agencies know, like, absolutely, if you have a job, if you have a rec therapy related job that's supervised by a CTRS, and it meets the requirements, yes, we can count that as internship. And in terms of working while doing internship, that's up to you. Now, internship is a full-time commitment, right? If you do the math, 560 hours works out to 40 hours a week for a minimum of 14 weeks. So if you're working on top of that, that it's a big commitment, but absolutely, a lot of our students have to do that. There is another option. We try to be as flexible as possible. So for example, this semester, I had a student and she said, look, I can't make my bills work if I don't work at least part-time. So what she's doing, and again, we can do this and it's okay by NCTRC, we can split the internship up over 2 semesters. So what you would do is you would be enrolled in 6 credits, like say 6 credits. She's doing 6 credits in the summer and she's doing half of her hours. And then she'll enroll in the next 6 credits in fall and complete her hours. Now that is of course up to the agency supervisor. The agency has to be on board. Her supervisor was fine for it because again, life, people have to work, people have to pay the bills. So that is possible. And we are willing to work with you to meet the requirements, but we can't change those requirements, right? You have to do 560 hours and you have to be actively enrolled in the program to get that academic internship. So yeah, that might be an option. Again, if we can break it up into 6 credit chunks over 2 semesters, if that would help. And so what, again, the student is doing is she does 20 hours a week at her internship and she works 25 hours a week at her regular job. And that worked for her. Okay. Great questions. Any others? Okay.
So I currently work a 4-10 schedule. Um, the, what if? Because I'm trying to think how that would work if I go that route. Because I know I do an internship. How long are the days for the internship? So like 8-hour day, or?
It's going to depend on the agency. I mean, it is the most common is students work like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. However, with rec therapy, like we don't necessarily just occur during Monday through Friday office hours, right? Like if you look at a lot of agencies, like especially your parks and rec programs, your after school programs, they're operating outside. There's weekend programmings, there's things like that. So oftentimes there is flexibility. So again, it's most common to do like 8-9 hour days. But depending on the agency, they might have nursing homes. It's not like they're only offering programs Monday through Friday, right, 9 to 5. They're offering programs all the time. There might be night shift, there might be weekend shifts. So, I think there is, and it's very agency specific. But we have seen I've seen all sorts of different setups, arrangements, schedules, things like that. Now, the main rule with NCTRC is you can't work over 45 hours a week. So you can't count over 45 hours. They used to have a rule about minimum hours and no break and all this stuff. They did away with all of that in COVID and became a lot more flexible, which has been really, really helpful. So it doesn't really matter, if you're at a place and they're like, yeah, we need programming 5 to 9 p.m. 3 days a week, that could really be a thing. It's just really agency specific.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Okay. Just a couple more things that I was going to cover. So in terms of like eligibility, admission, application, things like that. So and I'll send the link, I'll email out the link to everybody as well. But the application process is you complete the general certificate application is very simple 2-page. You have to complete a residency form. Again, if you are a Florida resident, you have to then submit proof of residence. So it's 2 forms. They accept either a driver's license car insurance, and voter registration. You need to submit 2 of those 3 to get Florida the in-state tuition. If you are not a Florida resident, then you don't have to submit any residency forms. You'll still sign this form saying you're out of state, but then you don't have to submit anything else. Then we need a copy of your academic transcripts. So there's 2 main things. We have to verify that you have completed, like you have a bachelor's degree. And the certificate also requires a minimum cumulative GPA of a 2.5. So make sure that that you meet those requirements. And then we ask for a copy of either your resume or CV, and then a brief statement of purpose. We provide a prompt, but basically we're just looking for, like, you know, what's your plans? What do you want to end up? You know, why are you wanting to join this program? So those documents are all uploaded to the link. And then if you've not done so already, and again, it sounds like we kind of talked through this, but we have an eligibility survey that'll just kind of walk you through and let you know, like, what track or what situation, you know, are you coursework, are you combo? You know, so you can go ahead and click that, take it if you've not already, but again, it sounds like everyone in here would be eligible for at least one of the tracks. Then in terms of the schedule, so if you were to start with our fall cohort, fall semester begins August 25th. So we follow, it's FIU's academic calendar. We don't have like our own calendar or schedule. We align with the university calendar. So coursework, folks, you would, again, you're going to take 2 classes per semester. You would start, so it's 6 credits total you'd be enrolled in, again, fully online. So you'll start in the fall. Next 2 would be spring 26, which starts January 5th, and then you would complete in the summer. Okay. Clinical folks, again, no one's in here, but you would do your field work in the fall and then your internship in the spring. And then if you're combo, again, you would start with your 3 courses, and then you would be eligible to begin your internship in fall 26, or it could be, you can do internship any semester. So it doesn't have, you know, if you don't find anything or you need to work and then come back, you can do that. But this is when you would be eligible. There are some situations, I have someone doing it now, it's not ideal. Technically, you could, if you were like real motivated and like really wanted to get it done, you could technically complete your internship during your last semester of courses. Now, you would be enrolled in 18 credits. That is a really full load. But in theory, you could do that. If you really wanted to knock this all out in a year, you could do that. Okay. But I would just put a caveat there that's a big, big undertaking to complete the 2 courses and internship, but I have someone doing it now. Okay. We try and work with you. We try and get people, we want people to make this program work for your situation, and things like that. Okay. So now, if you're wondering, for folks who do think they would need an internship, of like, how do you go about finding a placement? So I'm also the clinical coordinator for the program, for the undergrad degree, and I manage all of the fieldwork internship stuff. So you would work with me. I hold an orientation about this process. We do a deep dive into everything you need to know at the start of every semester. So you would attend an orientation, and I go through the process. So there are some kind of guidelines, rules, like we have to have an affiliation agreement in place with the agency. But we have so many different options. This link, and I'm going to send this presentation out to you all, but for example, just so you all kind of can see.
Tony, Alicia has a question.
Okay, yeah, I will. Let me show this and then I will get to Alicia if that's okay. So this is a list. This is not a comprehensive list. This is just a list of all the places that at some point we've had a student do a rotation or an internship at. And we're constantly adding. So like John Knox, for example, we just got reaffiliated with, and she's actively looking for a student, but we have it divided based on location. So we have Broward County, we have Dade County, And then we have states. You don't have to do it in Florida. We have students all over the country. Or if you want to go somewhere else and do an internship, totally an option. Like I had a student, she found a paid internship in Denver. She moved to Denver and did that. So tons of, I mean, but look at all these. We're still in Miami. Then we have other areas in Florida. And then we have states. I mean, we have like 30 different states that we've had students at. So again, this list, this is just to give you an idea. Some of these, you know, it's been years since we've had a student at some of these locations, but I like to keep them up there just so folks know of like where we've had students at some point. Now, you might live or have an idea of like, oh my gosh, there's a super cool rec therapist that works in the center near my house. They're not on the list. That's okay. We have steps that we can add them to the list. And I would help with that process. So I help, I do, you know, help with the paperwork, help with communication. But again, it is up to the student. You have to get accepted. You have to kind of do the legwork. You have to identify the opportunity for that. But there's a process in place that we kind of guide you through, and I'm here to kind of help and support. So this tons of options, but just know there has to be a CTRS supervisor. And for this list, just as kind of for folks that know, not all of these agencies have a CTRS. So for fieldwork, we have our students, they do kind of a practicum, like an introductory experience called fieldwork. And that can be at a ton of different, you know, we have people do it at PT, OT, speech clinics, all sorts of places. That there might not be an actual CTRS. So some of these places do not have a CTRS and they would only be for fieldwork. So you, when you're looking at this list, you would want to make sure it either says both or just 41, sorry, 4941. Okay, but you need to have a CTRS supervisor. That's like the #1 most important thing. Okay. So that's kind of the field work, and you wouldn't have to worry about that for a couple semesters, but you're welcome to attend my you know, orientation. I hold several every single semester just so you can kind of, you know what to expect, or maybe start looking, you know, see what's out there, things like that. And then you would start again, you know, you have to kind of get things set up so that it's in place for whatever semester you're doing the internship. I give you dates, all of those things. Okay. Now in terms of course structure, the internship's different, right? You're in an agency, you're working, you're doing the thing. It's, you know, kind of led by that practitioner. The courses, right? If you're doing just the courses, they are fully online. So we use Canvas as our learning management system. So anyone who has previously been, you know, a FIU student or maybe at a university use Canvas, but you will access all of your course content through that. Now our courses, they are typically, like, there's going to be variety depending on who teaches, but you know, I can speak to both Tanya and myself that we have a fairly similar style. But basically it's asynchronous. So what that means is there's not going to be any live meeting times. You are going to complete your coursework, the assignments, the lectures on your own schedule, but you're going to be given due dates. Typically it's going to be like weekly. Typically, again, it might vary, but like weekly tasks that maybe you have to complete by the end of each Sunday. And usually, you know, there's going to be some sort of learning material, whether it's reading, recorded lecture, an interactive activity. You might have, you know, there's quizzes, tests, things like that. Assignments, like a whole variety of things, but there's going to be several hours of coursework that you will be completing each week. We make it so that if the content that you're getting online is going to be the same as if you were coming to campus. So if you were enrolled in a 3-credit class, coming to campus, you're going to be in class for what, around 2.5 hours a week. So you can expect to be spending 2.5 hours on your coursework. And just to give you an idea, for folks who maybe have not taken online ed before, are not familiar with Canvas, I can kind of show you what it looks like. Just a little insight. So right now, this is a class, this is a certificate class I'm teaching as program planning. So you would again click into it, and let's go to the student view. But for this class, right, summer term, we have it set up into tasks for each week. So at the start of each week, like we're on right now, we're in week 6, right? So we just started what's called a specific program plan. And so kind of I'll post the content every week, and this is what you would be responsible for. So there's lectures. So like this, like I tend to use a program called Play Pause It, and what that is, it's a recorded lecture that you would get in like the classroom, but it's going to like ask you questions and have you do things throughout. So it's kind of different prompts. So you'll play it, and then you'll kind of watch it. In this session, we're going to and then kind of answer the prompts throughout. And so, you know, we break content into different chunks like that. And then let's see what else. They're working on like you know, the assignments that are due, you know, you'll have instructions of how to complete it, rubrics, things like that. So it's very structured. All of the information that you need is given to you. Again, it's typically on kind of either a weekly or bi-weekly basis. You go through it again on your own time, but you are expected, there's going to be due dates and things like that. So that's kind of how we approach online ed. But our expectation for our online classes is that you would get the same amount of content, the same type of content, the same learning, you know, activity and opportunity as you would in the classroom. Okay. With the courses, in order to pass, am I still sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You have to get a C or better in order to pass. So anything a C or better, you will. If you get anything lower than a C, you would have to retake that course. The application, so here's the link, and again, this is where you would submit those the different forms that I mentioned. Again, I'll send out all of these links to you. There is a $30 application fee. Now, the thing with the application fee is it's charged, it's added to your first semester's tuition. So like if you apply and then change your mind and don't come, like you don't pay the application fee. Like you only pay it if you're admitted. So just know that when your fall tuition comes, like that's where you'll see that $30 added. I don't know why they do that, but that's how they do. And so we ask that applications are submitted by July 15th. Now, if something goes wrong or you're not sure, you know, we can probably get you in afterwards, but this is just kind of our projected when we would like folks in. But again, if you somehow miss it, or if you're waiting on a transcript or something like that, just let us know. Just shoot me an email so I can kind of add you to our numbers. Okay. So that's everything I wanted to cover. Oh, I'm so sorry, Alicia, I didn't ever get to your question.
It's okay. I've been writing them down anyway.
Okay.
Okay. I know this is gonna go back a little bit, but I'm gonna try to start with the one you just recently talked about. So when it comes to like fully online, if we choose to go fully online, that is a different rate from the ones for in person, right?
Nope, for this, it's the same. So, and again, for the certificate, we only have the online option. It's our degree program, the bachelor's degree that you can choose online or in person, but the rate's the exact same. So it's for in-states, that 235 is going to be, that's just the flat, the rate for tuition.
Okay, so fully online is just straight online, but in-person classes, they will still have some hybrid.
It depends. So again, for the certificate, it's going to be fully online. But for our bachelor's degree, like we do have some hybrid courses where students come to class or come to campus once a week, and then do half of the course content online. We do have that modality offered, but again, that's only for bachelor's students. And then we have classes that are fully on campus, right? Again, only for the bachelor's degree. And then our bachelor's, like these classes for the certificate, these 6 classes, we teach these exact same classes for the bachelor's degree. Like there's no different in terms of the content. So like Tanya and I both teach, like we'll have like a section for the certificate program and a section of the same class, but just for the bachelor's students. But again, for this particular certificate option, it's going to be 100% online.
Okay. All right. And then going back to, you showed a list for the basically of sites that you had students that were previously, okay, are those sites just pretty much like approved already?
It depends, which is I know not the best answer, but for some of these sites, like our affiliation agreement might have expired, so I would have to renew it, for example. Again, that's stuff I take care of. Sometimes too, like maybe the therapist left or maybe they don't have opportunity, right? Like it changes so quickly, it's hard to keep up to date with all the hundreds of sites. Now, what I do is as I get updates, because I am in communication with a lot of our sites, I'll post them in that kind of notes of like, you know, fall 2025 definitely have opening, or I'll say not taking students right now. But I can't guarantee that any single agency will have an opportunity every single semester, just because things might change, or we might have, or there might be opportunity. But again, FIU requires us to have, it's basically a contract or MOU with an agency that is supervised one of our students, and those expire. And again, it can be pretty simple to renew, but it's just it's a step that we have to make sure is in place before you start. So that's why we say like, we can't guarantee, but that's why it's a really good starting point. And if you were interested in any place on there, if you're like, oh, this one looks really good, you can reach out to me and I can let you know, like if I have, you know, an update, if I know anything, or sometimes what I ask students to do, I'm like, hey, if you get an update, like if you reach out and they're like, sorry, you know, we're not taking a student, let me know and I'll add that to our list. So I do rely on students to kind of keep me informed, because there's just so many every semester and things change.
Okay. So as far as like, say for instance, adding a site,
Mhm.
what would you say the process, you know, to get them?
Yeah, and that's we go kind of, you know, I'll give all the paperwork and things we would need when I do the orientation. But really what it is, the main thing is we would have to make a point of contact. So like, and that's where the student, right? If you're like, okay, I found like there's this rec therapy program, I know, then I'll get in contact with them and I'll say, hi, you know, we have FIU, and I'll kind of explain the internship program. There is an information form that we ask the agency to fill out, so we can kind of make sure that the services provided will meet the requirements of the internship. If that all looks good, then I'll send them the MOU or the affiliation agreement that has to be signed. Now that's where sometimes the affiliation agreement is a legal document. I would say 80% of places I send them our kind of pre-approved template and they sign it and it's no big deal. Sometimes what happens is they're like, oh, I'm not allowed to sign forms. I have to send this to HR or the CEO or the someone. And then sometimes that can take time. We go back and forth. But again, I'm kind of managing that process, but that has to be in place for the student prior to them starting. But you'll be kept in the loop, right? As I'm like, okay, like I'm waiting on the agency to, you know, sign the form, I'll let you know. Once that's in place and we have that paperwork, then we're good to go. And if you know, and we have a form that once you're accepted, right? If you're accepted as an intern, the internship supervisor would sign it, and you submit that. But again, all of those specifics, like I'll provide you during the orientation process.
Okay, and I have two more questions. So the other question would be about the eligibility and admission. Um, so since I'm already a student at FIU, do I need to still do the residency form even though it already is in the system? Yes.
Yeah, we have to have it.
Transcripts too?
We have to just reprocess it.
Okay, so the transcripts as well.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And then the last question is, you were showing that for fall you had to there was a deadline. I don't know the deadline, but actually I am okay. So I am in my practicum now, and I'll be going to internship on the 24th of August. So I won't be able to start in the fall. So I'm thinking if I started spring 2026, what would be the deadline of submitting the application?
Yep, it's going to be, sorry, I get dates mixed up in my head, but we have it listed on the here. Spring will always be due December 1st.
Okay. And that's from the January 5th to April 17th, I thought I saw.
Spring, yep, January 5th is when spring semester starts.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
All right. Thank you. Does anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. I have a couple of questions. The exam. You know how we have to take for the exam. Um, how often are the exam? Do you have to like um keep your credentials up, or you know, I'm trying to say how some people
Yeah.
have credentials.
Yeah, so with the credential itself, you have to renew annually, and that's basically you pay an $80 fee annually. And that's to that's maintaining. Then you have to renew your CTRS credential every 5 years, and you do that through continuing education. So you have to complete 50 hours of continuing education every 5 years. So again, it averages around 10 hours a year, but you can lump it all together, spread it out. And you submit that your renewal application to NCTRC. So again, every 5 years you have to complete that the continuing ed, but then annually you have to what is it called, Tanya, when you
The annual maintenance fee.
maintenance fee, the annual maintenance, mine is due at the end of the month. So that is, yeah, something that you have to stay on top of. And we for folks in your final semester or during your internship, I have some more information about the exam and study resources, and all the things that you would need to know to take that. But it is something that, like most professions, you would have to, maintain.
Thank you. And what? And I know you probably can't answer this exactly, but the job market with the um recreational therapy, then I mean, I'm hoping we're expecting it to go. I mean, there's a lot of jobs out there, or I mean, expecting. I know we don't know if we're expecting to go, but you know, basically,
Yeah. No, I know what you're asking. I mean, I think the thing with this job is it's one of the few jobs right now that is not being replaced with AI. Like they need people providing people services, right? Like that, like the need for us is only going to increase, especially in the state of Florida, because if you look at population trends and statistics, we have a lot of folks, older adults in the percentage of the population that will be 65 and up and need assisted living, supportive care, long-term care, community-based care, right? There's a huge need. Now, if you do look, like you can look up like recreational therapy, occupational outlook or something. There's official stats, yeah, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it shows that like we grow at the average rate, right? So again, there's jobs out there. Now, I do like to say like this job, like again, you can work in so many different types of settings, types of agencies. When you're job hunting though, the thing that I like folks to be aware of is the job might not be called a recreational therapist, right?
okay.
But you having that CTRS credential will oftentimes qualify you for the job, of like, an adaptive sports coordinator, an inclusion program, an activities director, it could be called so many different things. And you having this credential is going to qualify you for that. But it's like if you were to do maybe like an Indeed search of just a recreational therapist, you're going to see a lot of like jobs, definitely. But I encourage you to look other keywords, again, using words like inclusion, recreation, disability, activity. And there's so many different directions that you can go.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Well, if you do think of anything, again, you can email us at either the rtcert@fiu.edu. I can also put our personal emails up here. T Santia, right? Is that right? Yeah, okay. Email us and we will, if you put in the chat your email, I will send out a copy of the PowerPoint and a copy of all the links that I mentioned, so you have that.
I gathered the ones that they put, so I'll send them to you, right?
Okay, thank you. And yeah, if you think of anything else, again, feel free to reach out. We can set up another separate meeting if you'd like. Trying to think, was there anything else, Tanya, that you wanted to add?
No, Alicia has another
I have a
question.
question.
Yep.
So in reference to, you said that we can make payments and it can be spread out into 3 payments, right? Is that paying while you're taking, or is there still a deadline, for those payments?
So they do, I'm not, the financial side, I'm not as super familiar with,
I
but from
think
what
it's
I
two
understand,
payments, through 2 payments you do the payment plan. I think, I'm not 100% sure, that you can do 2 payments.
oh, I'm pretty sure it's 3.
Yeah, your first one and then 2
Okay,
more.
oh, and then
Yeah,
2
yeah,
more,
yeah.
yeah. So, but they are due, that I know that they set, like, you payment 1 is, I think, due at the start of the semester.
Mhm.
And then they'll give you the date that the other 2 payments. If you miss a payment, the late fee, I know they add on $100 late fee to that, but it is during the semester you're taking the courses.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Awesome.
I have one quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
You may or may not be able to answer this, but so for the anatomy and physiology class, I was looking locally to see the different community colleges around me that offer that, and a
Mhm.
lot of them seem to have offer 2 semester courses. Am I required to take both semesters, or should I just sign up for a course that offers 1 semester?
So,
And
oh, Tanya, do you wanna?
yeah, NCTRC approves either 2 separate classes, one in anatomy and one in physiology, or 1 class combined anatomy and physiology.
Okay, and the combined class, is that usually 2 semesters?
No, you could do only the first one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
And if any of you have questions about those supportive courses, like the abnormal psych or human growth and development, some schools, like, they do call them different things. Like, for example, FIU, we call abnormal psychology
Psychopathology.
psychopathology, but it's like the same thing. So if you have questions, I just send them to NCTRC, send them, your transcript or the syllabus or something, and say, will this, meet the requirement? And they can let you know. The main thing to know, I think, where some folks get hung up is on the human growth and development. That class has to be the lifespan. So if you took like an adolescent development class or something like that, that's not going to qualify. It's got to be like, they call it womb to tomb, right? Like the full lifespan. So if you're looking for courses, just make sure it's like that and not like a specific age range, I guess, because it has to be.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where do we send like the transcript to in order to get that validated?
Yeah. So let me pull up NCTRC. So if you go to nctrc.org, again, they're very, very responsive. I know sometimes it feels like sending a generic email to nctrc@nctrc.org. They will answer though. And what they do is they triage. So if like your question, you'll just put it in the email, like, I want to verify my supportive course. They'll send it to the proper person. They'll get in touch with you and you communicate with them. They also, if you just want to call, they're really nice. They're really helpful.
Okay, and do we have to send like an official transcript or like we can send it? Does it have to be sent from the clearinghouse or like if we have a spare one, can we send that to them?
So when you officially apply to sit for the exam, it has to be official. I'm pretty sure in like the process, like you could send them an unofficial, just for clarification. And same with us, when you apply, we do not require an official transcript, because we know that's often associated with extra money, like you have to pay for it, which just seems ridiculous, but you can send unofficial to us as well.
All right, got it. Last question.
Mhm.
And because I think I'm gonna be in option 3 to where like a
Combo?
certain that have to substitute. So what would it be like a what's the word for it? Like a certain like class, right? It'll be a certain class that can substitute for it.
For the supportive courses or
Yes,
for,
yes, for the option three, to where I guess like the supportive courses to
No, that's the classes and the internship.
yeah, option 3 is going to be where you complete the 6 RT classes and then your final semester you would complete the internship. That's the option 3.
okay. All right.
And then the supportive courses that we're talking about, the anatomy, phys, abnormal, psych, human growth and development, those aren't included in any of the tracks. Those are just extras that you have to complete. Again, it can be at FIU or somewhere, community college, anything like that.
Okay, I got it.
Mhm. Anything else?
But those 3 classes, once they're added with any of these combination or, you know, any of those, that equals the 18 credits.
For
Because
the
these,
credits of the certificate, like you're gonna do, if you're just coursework, it's 18 credits. But if you're combo, you're doing 30 credits.
oh, it's additional. Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
on the combination.
Yeah,
So
so
I
you
would
would
do-
complete a total of 30 credits as part of
Oh.
the certificate. And
Okay,
if you need those supportive courses, that would be on top of the 30.
okay, all right.
But check first if you have them from your previous bachelor's and or your master's, because I
They
know
accept masters,
yeah.
yeah. If you take any of them at the graduate level, that could work too.
Yeah, the only thing is I know I have the human growth and development lifespan from my master's. And then the abnormal psychology, I do have psychopathology. I have childhood psychopathology and I want to say it was adult, but I don't remember, but that was in like I want to say that was my undergrad in my psychology.
Yeah, and so that's a question I would ask them. If you've taken 2 psychopathologies, but one was like adolescent, one was adult or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that'll meet the requirement, but you just need them to verify that.
Okay.
NCTRC. And the other thing that I like to mention is that coursework never expires. So for example, in some professions, they're like, oh, you have to have taken it within 5 years or 10 years. They don't. So if you, because I know we have a couple of folks who are changing, careers. Maybe you took classes 20 years ago. If you took it, they'll count it if it meets the requirements.
Okay. So it just looks like I need to take the anatomy and physiology.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else?
So the transcript, when I send over to you guys, the unofficial transcript, how do I send that over? Because I feel like I've tried before and it was like not being accepted, so I don't know what was going on.
If you're having trouble uploading it to the application link, you can always just email me. You can email me any pieces of the application. If you're having trouble, I know sometimes I have had some folks that for some reason like the PDFs weren't loading right or something. If you have any issues with any of the links, just email me. If you need, if you're like, I can't get this to download or I can't get it to upload. I can accept it by just email. If you email like a PDF or a screenshot or something like that, we just need that it shows again that completion of the degree and your GPA in the university it's at, right? It has to be an accredited university. So yeah, just feel free to email any of that if you're having issues getting it to upload or send.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Because I know my major is human development and family studies, so I wonder if one of them followed on one of the class criteria, but I don't know. But we can talk about that at a different time.
Yeah, and if you, because again, like I can't verify the supportive courses, but I'm happy to like look at transcripts and say like this should count, right? Like this is the one that I would think counts, and then you can send that to NCTRC. So I'm happy if you want me to take a look at any of transcripts or things, I can take a look, but again, I can't, like I'm not the final, say so that has to be NCTRC, but I'm happy, but I think I have a pretty good idea. of what will be accepted.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Anyone else? All right. Well, I really appreciate you all being here and the wonderful questions. That's really helpful. Again, I'll follow up. I'll send out all the information I mentioned. This PowerPoint. I'll include a copy of the recording just in case you want to refer back to it. The links, the application link to apply, things like that. Again, for fall, if you're looking to start, that's going to be July 15th. Get that in. And again, just feel free to reach out at any time. We can email or we can set up another individual Zoom if that would be helpful. All right. Well, thank you all. We'll stay on for just another couple minutes. If anyone thinks of anything, I'm going to stop recording. But I hope you all have a wonderful evening and yes, stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.